If you're dealing with repeat panic attacks, intrusive thoughts, physical symptoms, the depersonalization, derealization, you're trying to tell your brain, hey, I'm safe. And the brain just doesn't want to listen. And everything you might be doing to make this go away isn't working. And so it's natural to think, okay, well, is my brain just messed up? Or is it because you have some physical issue or something else is going on that's causing your anxiety to shoot up? Well, I want to talk about the number one way to convey safety to your brain, and it's one of those things that are often overlooked. And so if you don't know who I am, my name is Shaan. We help people around the world overcome their symptoms, overcome their panic attacks. I think it's worth having a thought experiment. If you've been watching my videos, focusing on the recovery journey, pause this video at this moment and ask yourself, what's the number one way to convey safety to my brain? This will be a good exercise for you to see, okay, well, am I on the recovery journey? Am I really understanding the principles? And if you're new to the channel, don't worry about it. But it's worth thinking and asking yourself and even just trying to guess. Here's the number one way to convey safety to your brain. It's your response. That's it. And people have a hard time grasping this because before they fell in the cycle, if they were fearful of something, they would react in fear. And it's okay. But what happens is before you fell into this anxiety cycle, before you were struggling with anxiety, your body could handle it. But when you're in the state where you're experiencing intense symptoms, where your fight or flight mode has been on for such a long time and you're trying to teach it safety, how you react matters. If you're responding in panic, well, that's going to keep your fight or flight mode on. And so there's no reason for your body or your mind to go into that safety. And so the best way is to focus on how you're responding to your symptoms. Now, before you even do any of that, it's always important to ask yourself, do you even know why you're having symptoms, right? Because let's say if you're dealing with palpitations, and if you're convinced your palpitations are the onset of a heart attack, then trying to tell your mind that, hey, I'm safe, doesn't work. Make sure you get everything ruled out by your doctor. And then also understand, how does anxiety create palpitations? Now it's about learning that anytime you have a heart palpitation, how do you respond? What's the proper way to respond? Instead of panicking and checking your heart rate on your watch, you're just going to let it pass. You're going to say, oh, my heart, beat as hard as you want. That's fine. That's your response. So will that make your heart palpitations go away overnight? No. But you just taught your brain something really interesting. You taught your brain that, hey, you can feel these symptoms, but they're not dangerous. And so the brain recognizes that, or remembers that. And then the heart will slow down on its own, like it always does. Once your body burns off all the excess adrenaline, your heart comes back to baseline. Doesn't matter when that happens. Then it'll happen again. And your heart will palpitate again for another reason. Doesn't matter. Maybe there was a situation, maybe there wasn't. Doesn't really matter. And then you respond again. Now your brain and mind start recognizing that, hey, maybe this isn't dangerous. Maybe we can rest. Maybe, you know what, we are safe. Then it starts easing off a little bit. It turns off the fight or flight response. When you turn off the fight or flight response, you naturally go into rest and digest. So there's a sympathetic mode and there's a parasympathetic mode. By the way, your body heals when it's in parasympathetic mode. When it's in rest and digest, that's when you heal. That's when your nerves, that's when your body just rebuilds. When you're in sympathetic mode, when you're in this fight or flight mode, your body doesn't have a chance to heal. It starts using all the resources it has because time is of the essence when it comes to danger. So your body's just burning through resources. This is why, by the way, if you notice, if you work for a long time, and if you see somebody that's stressed for a prolonged period of time, oftentimes they can get sick because their body just doesn't get a chance to rebuild or fight off infections and stuff like that. And you'll notice that once they come out of like a deadline, like a project deadline or some sort of stressor, they're more likely to get sick. And that's because they're not in that parasympathetic mode. And so using that example of heart palpitations or whatever, right? Plug in your symptom. It could be brain fog. It could be depersonalization. It could be an intrusive thought around something. Once you're able to show your body and mind that, hey, this isn't dangerous. And again, the number one way of conveying that is by your response. Then what happens is your body and mind naturally start lifting from that sympathetic mode. It starts going into rest and digest. That's how your mind goes into safety. And long term, what that means is that your body's able to rest. It's able to turn off this fight or flight mode. And turning off the fight or flight mode allows the symptoms to go away on their own. This is how the brain fog, the dizziness, the digestive issues start lifting. Now, it doesn't lift all at once. Certain symptoms are a little bit more stubborn. You might even notice that certain symptoms start to change. We call that somatic shifting. And, when we see people in the mentorship go through this, which is really common, or our anxiety programs, we actually say that's a good sign. Because anytime the symptoms start morphing, that means like the nervous system is changing. And that means the nervous system is desensitizing. And as that happens, the symptom manifestation changes. So it's recognizing that the key to all this is how you respond. That's the best way to produce safety. And so what I did was, when I was on the recovery journey, anytime I felt panic, I reacted in panic. In order to force myself into safety, I would try to meditate my mind into safety. I'd be like, relax, relax, relax. And I just couldn't do it. And it wasn't working. What was ironic was I didn't need any of those things. I didn't need that breathing exercise. I didn't need yoga. I didn't need diet change. I didn't need all that stuff. Now, if I wanted to do that, that's fine. But my foundation was so strong in responding that I didn't need to do that for my anxiety. And so I'm not saying you can't do those things. But as long as the foundation is there responding, then if you want to add things on top of that, that's cool. We don't really encourage people to do that because they're just not good at responding. They're so used to panicking and fearing and fighting and getting frustrated and focusing on their symptoms that just letting them be there, just letting the symptoms be there and teaching the mind is so difficult that adding things like yoga, breathing exercises, all these things just makes it more complicated. We also want to teach them that recovery doesn't require that much effort, right? They're so used to doing all these things to make it go away. But the truth is that when people aren't recovering, it isn't because they're not putting in enough effort. I actually find 90% of people are putting way too much effort. Stripping all that away, just telling them how to respond, all of a sudden now they don't have to put so much effort. And recovery becomes so manageable because you're focusing on the most important thing. Now, if you want to focus on these other things, by all means, go for it. But I always say do this for yourself. Don't do it for your anxiety. So it's important to recognize that if you are on this journey of conveying safety and getting into that rest and digest, you have to learn how to respond, right? And so I'll put resources down below, including the blueprint, the desensitization blueprint. That teaches your nervous system how to desensitize. That's what makes the symptoms go away. It's just another way of conveying safety to the brain. If you're used to gripping something for so long, even if I tell you to let loose of it, you're not gonna be able to do it because you have such a habit. But if you practice long enough, if you try long enough, you'll see over time, the grip will loosen on its own. And that's the thing. And so I hope this helps. If you're focused on the recovery journey, and if you want to know what the recovery journey looks like overall, make sure to check out this video that talks about the 5 steps to overcoming your symptoms once and for all. I'll see you in the next one.